Good evening, I'm Hafiz Marzukhi, and these are our top stories for tonight. Canada's Mark Carney denies retracting his criticism over the US, and Taipei and Washington agree to deepen AI tech cooperation amid ongoing tensions with China. All that and more coming up on AWANI International. Canadian leader Mark Carney has denied retracting comments he made in Davos that had angered President Donald Trump. The Prime Minister reiterates that his remarks accurately reflect the recent changes in policy and behavior of the United States. Says relationship with Washington are becoming increasingly strained, adding that very little about the country now resembles past norms.
But to be absolutely clear, and I said this to the president, I meant what I said in Davos. It was clear, it was a broader set of issues, that Canada was the first country to understand the change in U.S. trade policy that he had initiated, and we're responding to that.
The comments followed a call between the two leaders. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Carney appeared to be stepping back from his earlier statements. Carney also confirmed that a formal review of the USMCA trade agreement, scheduled for this year, would begin within the next few weeks. Earlier this month, Trump described the agreement as unnecessary, claiming the U.S. no longer needed it.
Taiwan and the United States have held high-level discussions on artificial intelligence, advanced technology, and drones, with Washington describing Taipei as a vital partner. The talks come as pressure grows on global supply chains and as tensions continue to simmer in the Taiwan Strait.
The discussions were held under the Taiwan-U.S. Economic Prosperity Partnership Dialogue, first launched during Donald Trump's initial term as president. Both sides signed on to a U.S.-led effort to secure AI and semiconductor supply chains, along with a separate deal on economic security cooperation. And from Taipei, a clear message. Peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait, they say, are not just a regional issue, but a global economic one.
Those are the main stories for tonight. More news coming up shortly after the break.
Racism in Malaysia is not just a social issue, it is deeply entrenched in our institutions and our policy making.
How come every other time there is something that is triggering?
So whenever there is a heavy vehicle collision or a fatality involving heavy vehicles, public frustration often zeroes in on the driver, the lorry driver.
I mean, that's the easiest. Typical pajak business model.
Saudi Arabia makes clear that it will not allow its airspace or territory to be used for any military action against Iran. The message was delivered during a phone call between Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian.
During the conversation, the Saudi leader reaffirms his country's preference for resolving disputes through dialogue rather than confrontation. Saudi Arabia's position follows a similar declaration by the United Arab Emirates, which has also ruled out the use of its airspace and territorial waters for military operations against Iran. Concerns about a possible escalation have intensified in recent days after U.S. President Donald Trump said an armada was heading towards Iran. Although he later said he hoped military force would not be necessary, a U.S. aircraft carrier and supporting warships have since arrived in the Middle East.
President Donald Trump insists the US dollar remains strong, even as the currency falls to its lowest level in 4 years. He dismisses concerns about the dollar's recent decline when asked whether it has weakened too much.
Mr. President, with the current value of the dollar, do you think it's declined too much?
No, I think it's great. I mean, the value of the dollar, look at the business we're doing. No, dollar's doing great.
He made the remarks in Iowa, where he was preparing to deliver an economic speech aimed at rural voters. The dollar's weakness has been driven by expectations of continued interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve, along with uncertainty over tariffs, policy volatility, and rising fiscal deficits. Investor confidence has also been weighed down by concerns about potential threats to the Federal Reserve's independence and growing doubts over the long-term stability of the U.S. economy. Following Trump's comments, losses in the dollar index accelerated, pushing it to its lowest level since February 2022. The currency weakened broadly against its major peers. The euro rose above $1.20, the yen strengthened to around 152.6 per dollar, and sterling traded at approximately $1.38.
US President Donald Trump says Cuba is nearing economic collapse due to the loss of support from Venezuela. He says Venezuela, once Cuba's main backer, has recently stopped providing oil and financial assistance, leaving the island increasingly vulnerable.
And Cuba will be failing pretty soon. Cuba is really a nation that's very close to failing. You know, they got their money from Venezuela. They got the oil from Venezuela. They're not getting that anymore.
The comments come in the aftermath of a U.S. military operation ordered by Washington, during which Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was captured in a raid. Since then, the Republican leader has signaled a tougher approach towards Cuba, speaking openly about increasing pressure on its leadership. Trump argued that Cuba had long depended on Venezuelan oil and funding, but said that support had now effectively come to an end.
The U.S. once again issued a warning to Iraq over the possible return of former Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki to government. President Donald Trump warned that American support will be withdrawn if such a move goes ahead, and that Iraq's previous experience under al-Maliki must not be repeated.
Trump said Iraq fell into poverty and widespread instability during Maliki's earlier time in office, blaming his policies and ideology for the country's collapse. The warning comes against the backdrop of Iraq's long-standing effort to balance relations between its two main partners, Washington and Tehran. It also follows a decision by a Shiite alliance holding a parliamentary majority to nominate al-Maliki as its preferred candidate for the premiership. Al-Maliki previously served 2 terms as Prime Minister from 2006 to 2014. His leadership was marked by sectarian violence, political conflicts with Sunni and Kurdish rivals, and strained relations with the United States. He stepped down after Islamic State seized large areas of Iraq in 2014, but has remained a powerful and influential figure in the country's politics.
US President Donald Trump says Washington and Seoul will work something out after his surprise move to raise tariffs on South Korean imports to 25%. Trump made the comments after accusing South Korea's parliament failing to deliver on a trade deal reached last year.
Chief Trade Negotiator Jamieson Greer said the US had previously cut tariffs on South Korean goods to 15% from 25% in exchange for Seoul's pledge to invest $350 billion in the US, open its market further to American cars, and remove non-tariff barriers. He said those commitments have not been met, with key investment bills still stalled in South Korea's parliament and progress lagging. Trump has also cited a growing US trade deficit with South Korea, now around $65 billion, calling it unsustainable. South Korean officials say parliament is expected to take up the pending bills in February, though economic headwinds could delay the actual investments. Meanwhile, tensions have been compounded by US concerns over South Korean digital regulations that could disadvantage American companies, a claim Seoul has denied.
The South Korean court has sentenced former First Lady Kim Kon-hee to 20 months in prison for corruption. The verdict comes just weeks after her husband, former President Yoon Suk-yeol, was handed a 5-year jail term on multiple charges. Together, the rulings mark the first time a presidential couple in South Korea has been convicted at the same time.
The Seoul Central District Court ruled that Kim had misused her position to pursue personal gain. Prosecutors said Kim received gifts worth up to $56,000, including a diamond necklace and Chanel handbags, from the Unification Church in exchange for business and political favors. However, the court cleared Kim of separate charges related to stock price manipulation and allegations that she accepted free opinion polls from a political broker ahead of the 2022 presidential election, which Yoon went on to win. Other cases against Kim remain pending. They include allegations that she helped recruit Unification Church followers in the Conservative People Power Party and accepted gifts in exchange for government job appointments. Kim has denied all wrongdoing, describing the cases against her as deeply unjust. She has acknowledged receiving Chanel handbags but said they were returned unused.
Japan has condemned North Korea's latest ballistic missile launches, calling Pyongyang's nuclear and missile programs absolutely unacceptable. Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary Kei Sato says launches on Tuesday threaten public safety in Japan and beyond.
South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said the missiles were fired from near Pyongyang towards the northeast coast, traveling about 350 kilometers. The test comes during a visit by a senior U.S. defense official to South Korea amid talks to modernize their alliance as Washington signals a more limited role in deterring the North. North Korea has stepped up missile testing significantly in recent years while refusing to engage in dialogue with Seoul and Washington. State media reported leader Kim Jong-un is preparing to outline plans to further strengthen the country's nuclear forces at an upcoming ruling party meeting.
Malaysia is emerging as a key player in the global critical minerals value chain, according to the French president's advisor on strategic minerals and metals, Benjamin Galzo. He describes Malaysia as an important contributor with strong potential, not only in mining, but also in downstream, which are value-added segments of the industry. He added that the country's well-established industrial base, spanning multiple sectors, is supported by abundant natural resources, including strategically imported rare earths elements. Galazor also said rare earths are becoming increasingly vital as demand grows across clean energy technologies, electronics, and advanced manufacturing. Putrajaya is seeking to reduce its dependence on Beijing while carefully balancing environmental protection, regulatory standards, as well as the need for a long-term investment. As part of this strategy, Malaysia has set a target to raise rare earths production to as much as 30,000 metric tons a year by 2030. That concludes AWANI International tonight. Stay with us as we track the strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media as well. I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. Thank you for watching and good night.